Welcome to the Animation Podcast, an official podcast of FilmBook. The Animation Podcast is a weekly animation news podcast that reports on the latest animation movie and TV show news.
Thank you for that introduction, Mr. Deep Voice, Mr. Coming to a Theater Near You. And thank you, audience, for tuning in today. What a beautiful day it is. The sun is shining, my microphone is working once again, and I have a slurry with the fringe on top for you of new animation news. But before we get into that, let me do a little intro, if you will, if you haven't listened to the last 13 episodes. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Animation Podcast, a weekly podcast about all things animation, brought to you by FilmBook. My name is Ephraim. If you are tuning into the Animation Podcast for the first time, what I do on this podcast is I discuss the current week's animation news. Find more of the Animation Podcast episodes on FilmBook, that's film-book.com, by using the search term, The Animation Podcast. If you are listening to this podcast on iTunes or another podcasting service, please rate and review this episode. If you are listening to this podcast on YouTube, please like our videos, subscribe, and consider becoming one of our patrons on Patreon at patreon.com/FilmBook. Oh boy, it's good to be back from last week, now that I can speak the way I like to be speaking and not worrying about blowing your ears off, gang. In top news, 2022 is already proving itself to be an exciting year for long-awaited IPs, since the past week we received confirmation of an anime-inspired, fully animated TV series out of the holy book for all dorks, Brian Lee O'Malley's Scott Pilgrim comic series. The cultural phenomenon that is Scott Pilgrim and Ramona Flowers' odyssey through adulthood and ex-boyfriends in video games, it cannot be understated, as the Edgar Wright 2010 adaptation still feels very alive, making top 10 lists and remaining a cult favorite. I am a big fan of the movie, and even back then when I was even a bigger fan of the 10-minute short that they animated to go along with the release of the movie. I remember watching it on YouTube and thinking, this is what my favorite characters should actually look like. No disrespect to Michael Cera or any of the original cast. They do fantastic work. It's just, for me, it's hard to imagine them any other way than fully animated just the way they were on the page, except on the big screen. So, to have news about a fully animated adaptation, this time a TV show, that intends to honor the very anime-inspired themes of the comic, as well as take the time to really capture the slice-of-life storytelling that is so intrinsic to that story, it's taking me all the way back to when I was 13 years old watching the movie trailer for the first time. It's got me very excited. Here's some info on who's involved. The show has yet to be greenlit, so no cast members yet, but it would be for Netflix, and O'Malley is writing and executive producing alongside Edgar Wright and Ben David Gabinski. You know him from the showrunner of Are You Afraid of the Dark reboot on Nickelodeon, among other things. Don't think he's done a lot of animation, but between these other two guys, I think they have the story covered. The animation will be coming from Science Saru, an animation studio in Tokyo, known for its hybrid technology when it comes to combining hand-drawn and digital animating. They're a very cool company, and it actually does seem like a natural fit for this group of people. Again, we shouldn't get too excited because it hasn't been greenlit yet, but with the original creator at the helm being propped up by people who are true fans of the source material, and an ambitious animation company that will honor the comic's anime roots, it's hard not to think that this will be a pretty kick-ass reboot, or remake, or whatever you want to call it, when the time comes. I would be surprised if it didn't go fully to series. In other top news, Disney Pixar's Turning Red is turning heads. Aren't I so funny there? No, it is making news as it announces that it is skipping a theatrical release and going straight to streaming exclusively on Disney+. The shift of plans is no doubt a response to the growing number of Omicron and COVID cases, making this the third Pixar film in a row that will miss an in-person theatrical debut. Kareem Daniel, the chairman of Disney Media and Entertainment Distribution, spoke this week saying that considering the delayed rates of box office recovery, especially in children's movies where the primary audiences are children who may be too young to be vaccinated and their parents who are going to be extra cautious when it comes to their kids, the most financially intelligent plan is to turn back to streaming, right? It's interesting, though, to see how quickly things have changed, as Encanto, Disney's last big release, ran in theaters all across America, and that was just 2 months ago in November. So if you intend to watch Domishi's foray into feature films with Turning Red this March 11th, you will have to do it from the comfort of your own home. I'm sorry. I mean, it is sad. It is sad that it's not going to be. I mean, it's small potatoes for us. We're going to be watching it from our couches. That's fine. But it is sad for everybody involved. I'm sure they really wanted a big, fancy theatrical release. And at one point, I promise, I'm sure these people will get what they want. It's just not right now. We're hanging tight. Okay, moving on, since we're already talking about Disney, and speaking of Encanto anyway, let's move on as we move into the news from those big old American companies. The Mouse House's Ode to Colombian Magic was honored this last weekend with its win of Best Animated Picture at the Golden Globes. Congratulations! It was competing against two other Disney contemporaries, Luca from Pixar and Raya and the Last Dragon, also from the Disney house, as well as the Czech indie film My Sunny Maud, and the international juggernaut that has been Flea. I imagined Encanto would probably pick up this win, cementing itself as the heaviest competitor against Flea. I can't remember what I said. Maybe I did some predictions maybe 3-4 weeks ago on this one. I can't remember what I said. The next best indicator for who will pick up the Oscar is usually going to be the Annie Awards. However, this year, the two frontrunners are nominated in different categories, Encanto being in Best Feature and Flea being in Best Indie Feature. So it will be interesting. It's going to be an interesting race for sure, right? There's still a likelihood that Mitchell's vs. the Machines, a film that is nominated against Encanto for the Annie Awards, but wasn't even nominated for the Golden Globes, could turn around and surprise some of us, but it's looking more and more like the race is going to be Flea v. Encanto. Congratulations to the entire Encanto team on their win, by the way. Whether it was your favorite movie or not last year, it's undeniably a pretty terrific film. In news from 20th Century Fox, we finally got a trailer for the much-anticipated The Bob's Burgers movie. The Bob's Burgers movies. Oh, gosh, I can't say it. The Bob's Burgers movie. There you go. The movie adaptation of the massive hit animated series, now in its 12th season, is scheduled to hit theaters on May 27th and will obviously feature all of the brilliant voice actors that we've come to love from the Belcher's family. That's Christian Shaw, H. John Benjamin, John Roberts, Dan Mintz, and Eugene Merman, alongside the other supporting cast with his Larry Murphy, Kevin Kline, David Wayne, and Zach Galifianakis. And David Herman. Oh, awesome. Yeah, of course, David Herman. The trailer doesn't give us too much to go off of, at least regarding what the actual story seems to be about, besides a summer gone haywire for Bob and his family, though we get more clues from a brief description given to us alongside the trailer. Apparently, after planning for a big summer blowout, a sinkhole opens up right in front of the restaurant, putting Bob's financial plans for the season in jeopardy. While Linda and Bob try to rally, Tina, Jean, and Louise try to solve a mystery that can save the business. The tone seems very much like an extended version of everything that we know and love about the series already, so fans will likely be pleased. I do think it's funny, however, right? How much in the same vein as the Simpsons movie, the Bob's Burgers movie has a sinkhole playing a pivotal role. I don't know if that's just coincidence or maybe they saw that and they liked what they did with it. The film will be directed by series producer Bernard Derriman, with series creator Lauren Bouchard as co-director. And then Bouchard has written the screenplay alongside Nora Smith being one of the fellow creators on Central Park alongside Bouchard. And Nora Smith will be producing alongside Janelle Momery. All of these people are tied very closely to the show and responsible for its long reign of popularity and quality. We should expect nothing less from this big screen debut. I'm going to go ahead and call that right there. And speaking of Bob's Burgers and The Simpsons, the two shows are the front runners in the Writers Guild of America Awards, each with 2 episodes nominated. From Bob's Burgers, we have an icon... this stupid name. An Inconvenient Truth. An Inconvenient Truth by Dan Feibel, and Loft in Bedslation by Jamil Salim. And from The Simpsons, we have the episodes Portrait of a Lackey on Fire by Rob and Johnny Lazibnik, and The Star of the Backstage by Elizabeth Kieran Averick. Rounding out the category is Daniel Peck's Must Love Dogs from Family Guy, and Lisa Hannawalt's Plant Toe from Tuca and Birdie. In the last 10 years of the WGA Awards, The Simpsons have won 6 times. The only other shows to steal the win from The Simpsons was Bob's Burgers with 1 time, and then 3 other times went to BoJack Horseman, which could spell good news for Tuca and Birdie. This is their first time ever being nominated. It's still a relatively young show. Though if I had to put a wager down, I'd probably say The Simpsons has the win. People in the Guild just love those writers, which... Look, it seems crazy to me. I don't think it's controversial when I say that The Simpsons hasn't been good in a while. And if their best episode is named Portrait of a Lackey on Fire, I can't imagine things have changed much. I haven't seen the episode. I haven't seen the last season, so maybe it's fantastic. My gut is telling me otherwise. I would love something like Tuca and Birdie to win. Hey, I would even I'm not saying Family Guy is much better, but they haven't won in a while, if ever. I think they've won once, so it would be nice for Family Guy to win something, but who knows? The winners will be announced on March 20th. In the world of anime, that's right, I'm moving right along to anime, baby. Try and stop me. In the biggest news, the biggest news in the world of anime is about pirates, and I'm not referring to Monkey D. Luffy and the Straw Hat Gang. I know, I'm very clever, aren't I? This week, we got some news, or at least some more information, about the upcoming April launch of Japan's International Anti-Piracy Organization, also known as IAPO, or IAPO. IAPO will be the joint coalition between major companies from at least 10 different countries, teaming up to fight against the global piracy market of anime and manga. The group will be overseen by Japan's Content Overseas Distribution Association, which itself is made up of 32 big-time animation studios, including the likes of Toei Animation, Sunrise Company, Aniplex, Ghibli, and Kadokawa, to name a few. Joining Japan in this fight is the Copyright Society of China, the Motion Pictures Association of the United States, the Korea Copyright Protection Agency, and a slew of other governing agencies of similar merit from all sorts of different countries all across Asia. Anime and manga piracy is a big-time money con job, with some statistics finding Japan alone is losing upwards of $7 billion in stolen content. I mean, that's kind of how it depends on what you define as piracy. There's a lot of nitty-gritty statistics about and what qualifies as what. But it's still, a lot of people are losing a lot of money with this. This has only been heightened by the amount of streaming that has been going on since the world of quarantining and staying inside brought a boon for anime and therefore a boon in piracy numbers. Almost 2 years ago now, right? In 2020, the Japanese government made changes to its copyright laws, harshening punishments for those found knowingly downloading pirated media. So this kind of joint coalition is a task force. They're looking to get you. So if you're out there pirating, you got to either find a way to stay hidden or you better give up your way of life, I'm afraid. Oh, boy. Also, fans of the online free-to-play battle royale game Ninjala were excited this week with the release of the TV anime tie-in spinoff that premiered with an English dub on the game's official English YouTube channel. That's a lot of English. That's a lot of words, what I'm saying right there. That happened this past Thursday. The show focuses on Burton, Bereka, and Ron, 3 scientist characters from the WNA, or World Ninja Association, that develop a gum that allows the user to unlock their hidden ninja powers. In a unique marketing strategy, Gung Ho, which is the developers for the game Ninjala, and also for all subsidiary content, Gung Ho has included 4 giveaway codes redeemable in the game that can only be found in the first 4 episodes of the TV show. So if you're a fan of Ninjala or free-to-play games or Battle Royale games, or if you're a fan of anime, or if you're a fan of, especially if you're a fan of Splatoon, because this looks maybe I shouldn't say this, but this looks a lot like Splatoon. I've never played it, so I don't know what it's like. But you might want to watch it now. It's over on the YouTube channel that they have for Gung Ho. It's the official Ninjala YouTube channel. And you might want to watch it soon because I think Splatoon is rumored to also have some anime stuff in the works. So before this also comes and starts competing, I don't know, maybe it wouldn't. Okay, and moving on. Here we are. This is a great transition, and what is a very good transition from anime to foreign film, because we're in the foreign film category, guys. International sales and co-production company Pulsar Content has just acquired its first animated feature, which it intends to market worldwide. This feature being The Dragon Princess, the fantasy epic anime-styled movie about a girl raised by dragons discovering the world of humans. Dragon Princess is a film from French animation studio Ankama. I hope I'm saying that right, Ankama, which you might know as the company behind the video game turned transmedia franchise Dofus. I also hope I'm saying that right, Dofus. Ankama got the world's attentions with its publishing of RPGs and comics and even some board games. And then stepping into the world of animation with animated adaptions of their own video game and graphic novel properties, and then co-producing MFKZ, which, if you remember, was one of the first movies I recommended on this show. Pulsar, being a Parisian company itself, the pairing makes sense, and after a theatrical release in France last December, Pulsar intends to take Dragon Princess to the global market at the Unifrance Rendezvous. The film itself is directed by Jean-Jacques Denis. He's an Ankama alumni. He's worked on many of the Dofus properties and movies and adaptions of that. Alongside the co-director, he's working alongside co-director and screenwriter Anthony Roux, who also so happens to be the co-founder of Ankama. So they're working from within themselves here. As far as the movie goes itself, it has a distinct anime aesthetic, something that would look akin to Studio Ghibli's Ponyo. Bristle, the dragon princess herself, that's her name, has a cute but kind of rough around the edges quality that will serve her very well as a protagonist with a storyline like this, or at least Ankama and Pulsar definitely seem to think so, as they have already announced their plans to turn the film into a 4-feature franchise. That's pretty ambitious, I guess, but look, time will only tell how fruitful their ambitions turn out to be, but we wish them the best of luck in their moving forward, right? Over in China, what started out as a rocky and controversial start for Haiping Sun's I Am What I Am seems to have been swiftly remedied, as the film has tallied in as the most popular Chinese film of the year-end and New Year period. For those who weren't in the know, the animated film, also known as Lion Dance Boy, faced controversy for its character design. The parallel, the Chinese film depicted its characters, right, with what was described as smaller, slanted eyes, obviously creating a backlash for the parallel to racist caricatures and depictions of Chinese people by foreign powers in colonial and less understanding times. The controversy, however, has seemed to only boost the reach of the film, as it has garnered an 85.6 out of 100 at the China Film Art Research Center polling charts, and raked in $34.6 million, which is pretty damn good for a local animated movie in that region. The movie is described as a down-to-earth coming-of-age story about 3 young men in Guangdong province hoping to master a traditional lion dance. In response to the controversy, the film's producer Mao Zhang spoke to Chinese tabloid The Global Times, arguing that the smaller eyes were an embrace of Chinese filmmaking and a rejection of American and Japanese standards, the cultures that popularized bigger, rounder eyes in animation, right? And while there is no U.S. distributor as of now, the film marks an interesting turning point in Chinese animation, where it's now abundantly clear that audiences will appreciate a more grounded, realistic story that appeals to their own childhoods. That's what I got for you with foreign film. At least, so we're moving on home from around the world down to your home with home video and digital HD release news. Everybody's favorite part of the episode. And it's very sad because this there is no DVD and Blu-ray news this week. I'm sorry. It was a very slow week for releases. That being said, next week we get the release of the Addams Family 2 movies on the movie on Blu-ray. So if you've been waiting for that little gem, you're only a few little days away, right? Okay. I have what you are actually here for. The review of the big picture in the article, Smiling Friends. Oh my gosh. Getting it out of the way, the info. Created, written, and directed by Michael Cusack and Zach Hadel from their, you know them from their respective YouTube channels, Michael Cusack and Psychic Pebbles. Cusack also has worked as a creator for YOLO, the Crystal Fantasy. It is produced by Princess Bento, which is a subsidiary of Bento Box, and Goblin Caught on Tape production companies. Goblin Caught on Tape is most likely, I can't confirm this, I can't find any Wikipedia articles, and that's the only place that I go to look at things. But I'm pretty sure that it's Cusack and Hadel's company. And it stars Cusack and Hadel, and also Marc M from Sick Animation, one of my favorites. Oh boy, I mean, I have been hyping up Smiling Friends for so long. And this is the second TV show that I've ever reviewed on this show, right? I normally do movies. But it just felt like I needed to talk about it. Like, my week was defined by Smiling Friends. I have been excitedly waiting for Smiling Friends ever since it first came out in 2020. The pilot episode was one of the highlights of my year. And now, granted, look, it's not very hard for that to be the top of 2020 was a particularly bad year, if you don't remember. But all of this is to say that it's been quite a lot of buildup, not only for me, but for all of the fans that voted it into existence. I'm sure if you're watching this, you already know, but it was one of the most heavily requested pilots on Adult Swim's annual showcase. I'm trying to write this right now. I'm trying to write a review of it right now, and I cannot even bring myself to do it because I just want to gush about it. Is it worth, was it worth the buildup? Yes. Yes, it was. It felt like I hadn't felt this feeling since, BoJack season's releases and whatnot. After seeing the trailer, after seeing all this, I was so excited to see this, and it was exactly what we thought it was going to be. It was so much of the creativity that comes from these two guys. Their style, their laughs, their sense of humor is so fun. And look, it might just be that it's just uniquely fitted towards me. It could be that. I don't know. But I've shown this to so many different people, and they always laugh out loud watching it. So let me go right into talking about this story, right? It's a little difficult because it's a TV show. It's not like there's a summary that I can really give. But for those of you who don't know, Smiling Friends is about two guys, Charlie and Pim. They work for a company called Smiling Friends, along with their co-workers, Alan and Gleb, and they work for a guy. He's just called the boss. And there's some other characters thrown in here and then they come in and out, but it's mostly those guys. Charlie and Pim are tasked every week with dealing with some kind of odd request where they are just trying to make somebody smile. But it's hardly ever that. Sometimes it's a murder mystery. Sometimes it's a quest through the enchanted forests. Sometimes it's saving the guy, like in the pilot, from killing himself. If you can't already tell, it's got a darker edge to it. But it's fueled with this kind of dedication to the way that these guys talk and joke around. It feels like half the time you're watching something out of this world, and the other half of the time you're like talking to your best friend. And that's the only way I can describe it. Pim is very much an optimist, and Charlie is kind of the pessimist, but pegging them in that category so simplifies what they are, because they're not just that. Charlie is this weird combination of just like this guy who doesn't want to do anything and has this kind of weirdly like like, you don't want to hang out with him too long because he's gonna say something that makes you uncomfortable vibe about him. But at the same time, he's so, like, he's the voice of reason, and he's so it's really fun to play with those dynamics. And then you have Pim, who is so charming and just wants to love everything, and is just got this naive energy about him. But also at the same time, you can navigate into just them talking and shooting the breeze with each other, and it just feels like, it feels like it's a podcast sometime. I love how strange it is. And that takes me to the animation, right? Smiling Friends, and we knew that they were going to do it like this, but it dares to be like nothing that is out there right now. They don't look like anything but what they are. It is the combination of YouTube animation and Adult Swim style and Psychic Pebbles, and that kind of, like, they have moments where it's rotoscoped and they have moments where it's claymation that makes it genuinely, like, kind of unnerving sometimes. And the character designs are so fun. They look the way, like Pim has these huge eyes, and one of them is a little bigger than the other, and his pupils are just scribbles. And it kind of has that rough feeling that Rick and Morty sometimes has, but it's taken to the nth degree, and it's so much better for it. Like, Charlie's character is just in silhouettes. I mean, like, he can only look one way. And the things that they go through, I mean, it's the kind of thing where the storytelling and the animation are so tied together in its own unique style that I'm struggling to even really describe it to you. It's like if a show had absolute freedom and money behind it, right? That's what it feels like. It feels like freedom with money, or YouTube with money. That kind of feeling of, oh, they can do whatever they want, and they will, and you never know what each episode is going to be, but somehow it will always end with something that makes you cackle when it comes down to just the simplest little conversations that they have. And when they fight, oh my god, it feels like they're actually fighting sometimes. Like, it feels like real arguments that they would have. So, look, as somebody who is so raised off of, like, YouTube content and that sort of culture, it's the kind of stuff that I love, that I want to be a part of. And seeing a show like this, and it's you could watch it in an afternoon. It's 8 episodes. Each episode is maybe 10 minutes long. It's packed full of visual storytelling and hilarious payoffs. I can't. It's not going to be for everybody. Look, I understand that it's not going to be everybody's cup of tea. It's really weird. It's Adult Swim to adults, but it's the best of Adult Swim. It feels like the kind of, like, guerrilla animation jobs that they used to do, that it just felt like it was coming from a place of pure passion, right? It just feels like it's coming from people that love what they're doing, and we're finally allowed to do it. What I'm about to go talk about, it doesn't have so much to do with Smiling Friends, but it also kind of does. But it's great to see Zach Hadel have a win for like this in particular. I was somebody that was very intently following the development of Hellbenders, which was his show with Chris O'Neill. And it was just dragged. I mean, they really dragged those two guys through the mud with this. They tried so much, and they got tied up, and they didn't have the rights, and then they couldn't make it the way they wanted to make it. I think there's maybe an episode of their podcast that explains what happens. If you want to look it up, it's out there. But it's just, it feels like a victory for YouTube animators who have been put through so much. They can't even, it's so hard to make a living off of YouTube, especially if you're an animator now. It's so difficult. And so to see them with this, it gets me very excited and emotional watching it. So I recommend that you watch it. It's very weird. There's gonna be like, if you love Adult Swim stuff, if you love YouTube animation in particular, it feels like an extension of that kind of form in the best way possible. And it's 8 episodes. Again, you can watch it so quickly. I wish that I had written out more, but I just needed to talk about how much I like this show. The animation is fantastic. It feels like it's all the stuff that you love. The stories are great. The characters are, it's just them. It's just those voices from animation that you love off of YouTube. It's just those guys, and they're here and they're doing everything that they love. I'm going to give Smiling Friends a 4.5 out of 5. I would probably, look, if you got me on a day where I didn't have to put it in like formal writing, I would probably say it's a 5 out of 5. The only thing holding it back is that, I don't know, like, my first 5 out of 5 on this show was Tear Along the Dotted Line. That really had such a huge emotional response, and it elicited something very, very strong from me. And Smiling Friends doesn't totally do that, but that's just what it's not supposed to do. But it lives up to its name entirely. I could say 5 out of 5. I would probably say that. So 4.5 out of 5 to 5 out of 5. Teetering along that line. Okay, so I'm moving on to my pick of the week. I have a little bit of time. I don't want to go too long. I've made some longer episodes, and I'm already at 30 minutes. But I wanted to talk about, since we're already at we're talking about a show that came from YouTube animators, and YouTube animators that were at this for so long and doing something that was really, really big. I wanted to do something different today, and for my pick of the week, I wanted to highlight a YouTube channel. This is a channel that hasn't been around as long as some of the other ones. I mean, they've been around for a while, but they make some of my favorite animated content on YouTube. And I think that YouTube animation, as we've just seen now with Smiling Friends, is a very big part of the culture. It's going to be making where the future animators come from, and it seems silly not to throw a highlight on them every once in a while. So the channel that I wanted to talk about was Worthikids, and specifically Ian Worthington from Worthikids. It seems a little silly to give that a highlight because it's still a big channel. I think they have, as of late, Ian probably has like 750,000 followers or subscribers on YouTube. And there are other ones that are just as good. Like another one to talk about would be Meat Canyon. Meat Canyon is definitely another channel to talk about. I could do another spotlight on them or him. But he's got his own show. He's got like 1 million subscribers, and he's got Monster Lab aired on YouTube. I wanted to talk about Ian Worthington. I wanted to talk about Worthikids, and I wanted to talk about Big Top Burger. Big Top Burger has so much charm to it. It is amazing, and the rewatchability of it is impeccable. I laugh every time I see, and it's not even funny. It's not even funny a lot of the time, or it's supposed to be. But I love when he's got the rival company, and they're all dressed as clowns, and it doesn't look like anything else out there right now. Worthikids has such a great way of mixing, or like this mastery of working with this kind of CGI in a way that doesn't look like everything else out there. It's a little rough around the edges. It's kind of got that stilted stuff to it, but he's found a way to make it look so good and so charming and so, I don't know, I can't help but go back to it every time. They look like little puppets sometimes. I'm laughing just thinking about Steve, the way he's designed in Big Top Burger at least. But it's not just that. You can talk about the Emperor Palpatine video, right? Where it's he has him, Darth Vader throwing Emperor Palpatine off of the Death Star. As he's doing, he says, "Is this a bit?" Like, that's so funny to me. And I don't see that kind of stuff elsewhere. It has this very kind of like in the family, at least to me, right? His dialogue feels the way like family members joke with one another. And it just feels warm and comfortable. And again, like somebody who is making exactly his weird kind of thing. So let me think of a couple videos that you could start with. You should definitely watch Big Top Burger. It's a story. It's a little web series about 4 workers at a food truck that sells clown-themed burgers. I think there's maybe 6 episodes out right now. He started a new season, which is also why I'm kind of shouting him out there. Some other ones that are good are Palpatine's Journey, which is on Tinder. He also has an amazing, he does some great music too. He has an amazing kind of Rankin and Bass inspired country song of this kind of skeleton singing a little old ditty. It's great. I admire this guy's channel so much. And I wanted to do a shout out since we're already kind of talking about animators from, the online forum. So check him out. It's Worthikids. It's Worthikids. You definitely know this guy. His videos get a lot of views. So it's silly for me to shout him out, but I am. I'm going to do it because it's my show, damn it. And I can do what I want. And since I can do what I want, I should probably wrap it up right now because then we would be here forever. So thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Animation Podcast. Be sure to like this episode and subscribe. You can find more of my work on FilmBook. That's film-book.com. Just search for Ephraim Bernie or the Animation Podcast, and you'll find me there. You can also find me on Twitter at Frumblers or on Instagram at Ephraim_burning. If you would like to contact us, you can email us at podcast@film-book.com with the Animation Podcast in the subject line. Tune in next week for the latest episode of the Animation Podcast and all things animation. Thank you for listening, and I will see you then.
Thanks for listening to the Animation Podcast. Find more of the Animation Podcast on FilmBook, on your favorite podcast service, and on YouTube.